So I'm probably never going to play World of Warcraft again. Like, yeah, I have a lot of beloved memories of the franchise in general, and the game would probably be fun enough, but just nah, man. It's a bad fucking taste. Oh yeah, all that stuff I liked before, well, that was made by sex pests, and the stuff I have now is made by a computer calculating the most efficient way to wring every last cent and second out of me, like a leech, curled around my cock, tickling the balls every now and then just to get the blood flowing. I just don't want to do it, and probably the biggest reason I think I will never come back, even if all these problems were fixed, is the story. Warcraft isn't even fun to follow anymore, other than videos of people shitting on it. I wouldn't be surprised if WoW's engagement numbers are higher than they've been in a while simply because of how much enjoyment people get from seeing others just lay into Blizzard from every angle. The hot button topic right now is the conclusion of Shadowlands and how just fucking God. So BFA, right? It was pretty bad. There were some good things. It had Blonde Samdi. I liked Rastakhan. Old Soldier was pretty cool, even though that was a YouTube video, not part of the game. Whatever. Thing is, BFA had new stuff that was actually kind of engaging, sort of. It wasn't great, or even good overall, but WoW's narrative never has been. The fun of World of Warcraft's story was in the world building. The narrative was largely up to you. This is just how MMOs work, or worked. There's been a lot of changes in recent years. Warcraft 3 has really been the only time the franchise has been a good example of a compelling character-driven narrative. That's why they keep calling back to it. They don't really know how to do that again, I guess. These two things are why I think Shadowlands has hit such a sour note with its story. Not only does it rip apart established world building, but it does so by explicitly using a narrative based off Warcraft 3. That whole thing where Blizzard had their employees awkwardly say,
Shadowlands is like the final chapter of one book of the Warcraft saga.
That is kind of true when you look at the whole of Shadowlands. It's just done in an incredibly clumsy and honestly disrespectful way. Seeing Blizzard try to ape Marvel movies, of all things, in these poorly written cutscenes is hard enough. But seeing characters from one of the best games ever made, puppeted by people who had nothing to do with their establishment, is what's pissed people off so much. I could go on and on about how awful WoW's story is right now, but there's plenty of other videos to do that. The thing with me is, Shadowlands didn't have to be shit. I mean, obviously, right? None of this had to be shit. I mean, I'm sure it's difficult working on WoW, even if you didn't have to worry about your fellow employees getting drunk and stealing your breast milk. But honestly, the story in Shadowlands is kind of superfluous to the game overall. These cutscenes and quests could have been written however they wanted them to. I don't think Bobby Kotick came down to the offices and after he was done groping all the women there, demanded they make the story shit. So what I want to do instead is make Shadowlands cool. Using the same restrictions, just come up with a more interesting story. By restrictions, I mean everything that happened before Shadowlands is the same, and Shadowlands has the same number of patches, and also Shadowlands is about the Shadowlands, which is this new bullshit afterlife dimension thing. Now, part of these restrictions is, unfortunately, BFA happened. More unfortunately, this means that the burning of Teldrassil happened. The burning of Teldrassil is largely, and correctly in my opinion, considered the worst thing to happen to Warcraft's story ever. And I'm not just talking about that one cutscene. The entire event in game is so damaging to so many characters and the Horde as a whole, as a faction, that I don't think they can ever fully recover, no matter how hard they try. Yes, Sylvanas is probably the most contentious character in World of Warcraft right now, and that's largely because she's been at the forefront since the burning of Teldrassil. And I mean, it was where she committed genocide. The last two patches have been Blizzard essentially trying to rehabilitate undead Hitler. And obviously, that's not going to work for most people. Now, what if I told you the burning of Teldrassil doesn't have to be that bad? I mean, it's bad, obviously. It was not written correctly. The story goes that Alex Afrasabi, former Blizzard head honcho and hopefully former sex offender, pushed the burning of Teldrassil against the rest of the team's wishes, turning Sylvanas into a villain. Now, to do this without completely destroying the foundation of the Horde as a society of races dejected from the rest of the world, banding together to survive, you would have to build up to this shit. Have Sylvanas replacing key figures with her own people, and then show those people doing the actual burning instead of just having a bunch of orcs be like, sure, I'll plunge the world into eternal war by burning this tree that's very important to the environment and stability of Azeroth, but whatever. What's done is done. The problem with Sylvanas right now is that the current team did not follow through. They had the heel turn moment, the super kick through the glass window, but refused to acknowledge the line she had crossed. That is the first thing we're going to change. Sylvanas is a villain. There is no Kerrigan bullshit here. God, StarCraft 2 story should have really been our first clue that shit had gone bad. Sylvanas is presented as a bad guy. That's it. Good villains have good motivations, which we'll get to later when it comes to Sylvanas, and which also brings us to... The Jailer in Shadowlands is just Blizzard wanting to put Thanos in their game. There was no 7D chess plan. Nobody mapped out everything that happened in the Warcraft story and how the Jailer was connected. They just wanted Thanos, so they put him in and decided to figure it out later. Or just not figure it out later, and vaguely hint that there's an even bigger threat and hope whoever's next on the revolving door can come up with something better. That's why the Jailer sucks. He's not a fucking thing. He's not a character. He's just a concept from what was popular when they were coming up with the expansion that they never had any intention of giving substance to. But let's use him anyway. I'm throwing out everything in the real Shadowlands narrative, so he's not the previous Arbiter, robot, misunderstood little perfect baby, or whatever he is in the real game. No. We'll keep the Maw, and we'll keep the Jailer in the Maw. He rules hell, basically. We'll keep the rest of the Afterlife gang too. Bastion is ruled by the Archon and is where good little boys and girls who can follow orders go. Maldraxxus is ruled by the Primus and is for sweaty tryhards. Ardenweald is ruled over by the Wintercreed for furries, and Denathrius rules over Revendreth for cocks. And in the middle of it, Oribos with the Arbiter who chooses where everyone goes. Spoiler alert, here's what we're not doing. People in the Shadowlands don't give a fuck what's going on in the living world. The Jailer is the guy who rules hell, and that's it. They just want souls, and the things they can do with souls, and people die constantly in Warcraft, so there's no shortage of souls. We'll keep Anima, because you know they need their bullshit resource to time gate stuff, so you pay at least one extra month. Every story needs conflict though, and we'll pull a real Blizzard move here and basically steal from another property. Realms in Shadowlands now work similarly to Plains in Dungeons & Dragons, the Planescape setting specifically. Basically, the more souls or anima that a realm has, the bigger it is in the extra-dimensional, metaphysical bullshit world of the Shadowlands. That's where you have things like Maldraxxus invading Bastion. It's a territorial dispute rather than them just showing up. Realms and the Eternal Ones are basically in an eternal competition with each other. This pits the Covenants against each other, even if it's not an outright antagonistic competition. It now actually makes sense that players have to pick a Covenant. We'll keep the Anima drought, but it won't be because all the souls are flowing into the Maw. The Jailer and the Maw are just as affected by the loss of souls as the others. Now, the Jailer will be a villain in this new Shadowlands, and he will be the final boss of the first raid. But first, why are we going to the Shadowlands? BFA ended with the very anticlimactic end of N'Zoth, so yeah, I'm just gonna ignore all that. But anyway, let's keep that shitty cinematic where Sylvanas bodies Bolvar, with a few key differences. First, no chains. Sylvanas fights Bolvar with her spooky banshee powers and obviously starts losing because it'd sure be stupid if the one time we got to see Bolvar as the Lich King in action, it's getting beat by a character that's supposed to be like 4 power levels down. Just as Bolvar is about to finish the fight with Sylvanus injured on the floor, we hear her whisper, "Where are you?" as if pleading. Then Bolvar turns off, instantly rendered comatose. Sylvanus wrests the Helm of Domination from Bolvar's head and destroys it, but not as she originally does with her bare hands, because that's fucking stupid. She just puts it in her hands and a mysterious power envelops the helm and breaks it. The portal to the Shadowlands opens and Sylvanus disappears. Bolvar comes to and gets the gang together to find out what the fuck just happened. Jaina and Thrall can fuck off. They got other shit to do. Thrall is being a daddy and Jaina is being terribly written. There aren't Mossworn going around capturing everyone Blizzard can milk for nostalgia to get them involved. In fact, the only thing people on Azeroth notice is a giant hole in the sky and the fact that the Scourge have gone bonkers. No, Bolvar and his knights go first to Anduin and the Alliance, because that's kind of Bolvar's whole thing. Before he was the Lich King, he was a staunch paladin of the Alliance. That's why they put the helm on him in the first place. Also, Anduin would be on that fuck Sylvanus train because of the whole war thing. Anduin, being a good little boy and seeing some shit has gone down, contacts Bane since it seems like a problem that everyone should be aware of. Bane and Lor'themar head to Icecrown with the Horde player characters because the player characters have, it's hard to place player characters because they've done such a poor job implementing them into the story, but we're there because we're good at killing stuff. We have the Heart of Azeroth, we're the main characters, whatever. Alliance characters are contacted by Tyrande, who hears of what happened from Anduin because she's really annoyingly persistent in knowing anything that Sylvanas is doing. She's going to Icecrown and bringing Alliance soldiers both to bolster Alliance presence there and because she don't trust no Horde. Tyrande is another difficult character because she hasn't been written well since Warcraft 3, but being super pissed at Sylvanas makes sense because of the whole genocide thing. Entering the Shadowlands can be done in the same way, with the Helm of Domination bullshit, but with one difference. The Heart of Azeroth plays a bigger role. Bolvar, Lor'themar, someone surmises that the Heart of Azeroth can be used as a tether back to the living world so we don't get stuck there. I can't remember if that was a point in the real game, honestly, but regardless, the Heart of Azeroth is from this point forward always considered to be on the player's person. It's not a normal item anymore. Bolvar, Anduin, Bane, and Tyrande enter the Shadowlands with their forces. Lor'themar goes back to act as basically the leader representation for the Horde. I know, it hurts me. A fucking elf representing the Horde, but Lor'themar is honestly the only Horde character left that has been developed at all as a competent leader. From this point on, I'll only talk briefly about narrative since I could do a whole video series about stuff they could have done better. One thing to keep in mind going forward is I'm not going to do anything with the first ones. The first ones become a big deal later on in Shadowlands, I think. I don't know, I stopped playing before the first major patch, so I'll probably get things wrong. My idea for the game has very little, if nothing, to do with them. Some people might not know this, but the first ones are an idea like many in Warcraft copied wholesale from Warhammer. Shadowlands really did go back to the franchise's roots in some ways, I guess. But you see, the old ones, as they're called in Warhammer, aren't important. For good reason. In both Fantasy and 40k, they're just a vague starting point. It's everything that happens after them that's important. So, I guess they could be mentioned, but the whole, we put Amarot in our game, and now that's how the whole world was made? Not doing that. Also, I'm going to keep the realms of the Shadowlands mostly the same as they are in the real game, just for the sake of brevity. So, same leveling quest lines there for the most part. I would have done returning dead characters way differently, but whatever, not important for this video. Same dungeons too. With one exception. Also, the Arbiter works. She isn't shut down or whatever the fuck. She just doesn't talk or do anything. She's just too busy sorting people into houses or whatever. Anyway, we get into Shadowlands through the mall. The beginning, where Jaina and Thrall tutorial us around, will have to change, obviously, but eventually we get to Oribos. Note that Tyrande is here the entire time. She doesn't jump in like a fucking idiot. I know it will be really hard for Blizzard to write a female character who can control her emotions, but maybe they could try here. Anduin and Bane get captured and sent to Torghast, like in the scene in the game, with us, Bolvar, and Tyrande escaping using the Heart of Azeroth that seemingly lets us traverse the realms of the Shadowlands, and that way everyone can call us Mawwalker, because at least it's better than Champion. From here, Bolvar and Tyrande act as our, guides, commanders, the people who give us all the quests. Bolvar is actually a major part of the expansion, since he's on the frickin' box. Sure would be stupid to put him on the box and barely have him do anything. Sure would be stupid for him to maybe meet his daughter who thought he was long dead and have like one scene and never bring it up again. We couldn't possibly do that. Could we? Horde players might feel left out, so maybe they go through a high-ranking general, like Rokan or someone. That makes sense. He's a shadow hunter. Rokan's there too. Give him more character. He's cool. Bolvar's quests are mostly related to the Maw and Torghast, because they learn that the Helm of Domination has ties there, possibly made there. Yes, the Primus is still captured in Torghast, and was forced to make the Helm of Domination and Frostmourne. Tyrande and Rokan's quests are mostly about searching for Sylvanas, since they are both mostly interested in stopping whatever she's doing and getting revenge. They're the ones who send you out to the other realms to do adventure stuff. Some key points about the leveling story here. 1. Like in the original game, you save Bane early on from Torghast. What I would want to emphasize is the tension between him and Tyrande. Tyrande still hates the Horde and hates Bane even though he's just a cuddly little cow man. The two butt heads, not literally because one's kind of better equipped for that, but they both want to find Sylvanas. 2. Instead of Sylvanas being buddy-buddy with the jailer in Torghast the whole time, we actually chase her across the entirety of the Shadowlands. We don't know exactly what she's doing, but we do know where she goes, trouble follows. Anima starts to become even more scarce. Realm territories start to come into more conflict. Just generally fucking shit up for people of the Shadowlands. 3. The ending of Revendreth will be significantly altered because Castle Nathria will not be our first raid. You can still have the whole deal with Denathrius being a dickhead hoarding Anima for himself and Prince Renathal overthrowing him, but Denathrius is not working with the jailer. Maybe Castle Nathria becomes a 5-man or something, whatever. Main point is, Denathrius is out for himself, and also didn't make the fucking Dreadlords. Dreadlords are demons. Our interactions with the jailer are entirely through Maw and Torghast quests as we work to find Anduin and the origins of the Hell. You can still do the whole special zone with special rules thing, since, it is Hell. Those interactions set us up for the first raid. The Sanctum of Domination. You see, there is one thing that the jailer actually did play 69D chess and control from the very beginning of Warcraft, and that's the Helm of Domination, Frostmourne, and the Scourge. Well, control is a bit out there, but what he did is make a magic helmet that drove you to turn people into zombies. Why? Because souls that are trapped in those zombies, when those zombies are eventually slain,
go to hell.
A loophole. A soul is so tarnished by the atrocities and madness committed by them while being a member of the Scourge, the Arbiter sends them straight to hell. Also, the jailer was never the Arbiter. The Arbiter is just a thing. It's a computer that basically just sorts people. It's not a character. But zombie plague, zombie souls go to hell, jailer gets more souls, and thus a leg up in the afterlife game. How breaking the Helm of Domination opens a portal to the Shadowlands is something that will be revealed later. Now you might be asking, but what about Maldraxxus? They're zombies. Those are special zombies. Look, I said I'd change the realms too, but I don't have time. But zombies in Maldraxxus still have free will, so they're less zombies and more just people who fight forever and die a bunch, so their flesh looks like zombies, whatever. Moving on. We find Anduin is being kept in the Sanctum of Domination because he is indeed being turned into the Lich King 2, like in the real game, but not with the soul of Arthas, and so the jailer can... I don't know what the fuck the jailer was doing, but in my Shadowlands, he wants another Lich King because the last one didn't fucking listen to him, and Sylvanas broke the helmet, so he needs another. This is the character of the jailer now. He's not some super mastermind Thanos stand-in with vague goals of total domination or whatever. He's a fucking cheat. He sends artifacts through the barrier of life and death so he could get more souls. He imprisoned the Primus long ago to do this, and now he's trying to do the same thing. He's particularly desperate too because he is also affected by the Anima drought. So we storm the Sanctum of Domination, freeing the Primus and Anduin. Maybe both have fights where you get them to like 50% and they stun you and free themselves. I don't know, they love doing that shit. Now, Bolvar is the star of this raid because the player characters haven't been the stars since like the Black Temple. You may be asking how the player characters can defeat a being on the level of the Eternals. And that's a good question. One that Blizzard didn't even seemingly ask themselves, so I don't know. It's gonna be some BS either way, but I would do it this way. 1, the jailer doesn't die. We just weaken him enough that we take his goodies and get out, leaving him with his normal job of ruling over hell. 2, we do this through Bolvar. The cutscene before the fight with the jailer would entail a standoff with Bolvar, who obviously starts to get his ass beat. But he's able to call upon a power to weaken the jailer enough that we can step in and do some damage. In a moment of desperation, Bolvar reaches out to the one thing he thought lost to him. The one thing that goes against everything the jailer represents. And for the first time in a long time, he's able to harness it. The light. I'm not going to make a whole ass raid boss, but that would be the gist. Bolvar concentrates a large amount of light in the Sanctum, and that lets us weaken the jailer enough to escape the maw with Anduin and the Primus in tow. Then what comes after? This is where I'm going to divert fully from Shadowlands proper, because obviously the jailer's already been literally put in his place. There's no Zereth Mortis or whatever the fuck the new zones that came out with after are. No, patch 9.1 will now focus entirely on Sylvanas and her new motivations. Like I said, we've been chasing Sylvanas all over the place, right? She's been going around causing chaos, killing important figures in the realms, draining anima, all of it. Bolvar still helps out here, but the main characters we're dealing with are Tyrande and Bane. .1 begins in Ardenweald, where Sylvanas has specifically called out Tyrande, telling her to come to a specific place to settle things. Now, I know I made the joke about how Blizzard writes female characters, but Tyrande is technically a warrior queen, so I think it makes sense that she would at least consider meeting the challenge that is obviously a trap. What really pushes her is Bane telling her that it's a bad idea. And again, she don't let no horde bitch tell her what to do. Eventually, she's able to compromise with Bane. She'll meet with Sylvanas, but with us and Bane in tow. Up to this point, it seems Sylvanas has been alone this whole time. Again, she's not with the jailer. She doesn't have soldiers or anyone under her command. When we arrive in Ardenweald, we do indeed find Sylvanas alone. Tyrande engages her in combat, probably doing that cliche where she tells us to stay out of it because this is her fight and yada yada yada. Anyway, we get a cool fight scene, but Sylvanas is really laying on the shit talk, like bringing up the burning of Teldrassil and all that. Eventually, this causes Tyrande to give fully into the power of the Night Warrior. Yeah, that thing that she did that gave people black eyes. This causes some boobly-hoo spooky magic to pour out of her, which Sylvanas seems to channel. You see, Sylvanas needed an aspect of Elune's power to be present in Ardenweald, because only then could she gain access to the hardest realm in the Shadowlands to reach. The realm closest to the barrier between life and death, sort of above all the other planes of the afterlife. She opens the way to the new zone for 9.1, the Emerald Dream. Yes, the Emerald Dream is now part of the Shadowlands. Hey, it's an explanation for the Emerald Dream as any. The Emerald Dream is where those spirits cultivated in Ardenweald go before they are returned to the world of the living. They are fully cleansed and reintegrated into nature to be born anew. To facilitate this, it lies in between life and death, which is why druids and old gods are able to sometimes enter it, though with difficulty. It's much harder to go there from the Shadowlands, however, especially for undead Hitler, who probably isn't that in touch with nature. Yes, we're bringing Elune into this, and you know what? Let's just go with what Blizzard did, but better. She is an Eternal and the Winter Queen's sister, but much more defined. She actually has a character now. She's known to the Night Elves because the Emerald Dream is closer to the living world. She actually has some ability to influence things there, which she largely does to facilitate the growth and prosperity of nature, since that's the whole reason her realm of Shadowlands exists. As for why Sylvanas wants to get to the Emerald Dream, well, she tells us this. It's where all the anima's gone. There's a drought because it's all flowing into the Emerald Dream. Elun's hoarding it. She makes her escape and starts doing her dastardly work in the new zone. Tyrande is drained of the Night Warrior's power, basically meaning she's weaker now and her eyes ain't black no more. She has to rely on us and Bane as we traverse the Emerald Dream, which I might mention is still filled with old god shit. Yes, the Emerald Nightmare was never actually resolved, to my knowledge, and even if it was, fuck it, it's still there, somehow. Now, there is no old god, this is essentially what's left of their attempts to control the afterlife, but these remnants act as our reason to, do quests and kill stuff. But also, what our little team theorizes as to why Elune is siphoning the anima. Tyrande doesn't want to hear that kind of stuff, of course, but she can't deny that the Emerald Dream, other than the nightmare-y parts, seems pretty well off compared to the rest of the realms. This culminates when we eventually meet Elune herself. The scene I'm envisioning is one where Tyrande is all in awe of finally meeting her goddess, but afraid of what she might learn. I mean, she did just kind of help beat what is essentially her brother. You, her, and Bane travel to the heart of the Emerald Dream, and Elune gently puts her hand on Tyrande and tells her, "Be not afraid, my children." Tyrande smiles, but is then perplexed. Children? Camera pans to where Elune is looking, which is at Bane. "Musha," Bane whispers, kneeling. And you see, that's how you get the Horde and Alliance on the same team. Two people realizing they have more in common than differences. Yes, Elune helps direct not only the Night Elves, but the Tauren as well. Tyrande softens to Bane as he helps her throughout the zone's storyline, eventually realizing he's just as much a follower of the goddess she's devoted her life to as she is. Eventually, they broach the subject of the anima drought, and Elune doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. She isn't hoarding anima, she doesn't even have the ability to do that. No one does. As her realm is on a different order than the others, she doesn't even keep in touch there. She didn't know anything about a drought. But she's about to, because anima's about to take a huge drop in the Emerald Dream. That wacky Sylvanus has somehow started draining anima by the bucketful, and we gotta find her. We find her in the raid for this patch, Sylvanus' super spire of bad stuff. I don't know. She takes control of some kind of structure or something that's siphoning all the anima, and we gotta go through all her raid boss protectors to stop her. Again, not gonna design a whole raid, but Sylvanus is the final boss, and she does die at the end of it. But hear me out. Sylvanus cannot be redeemed, not in my opinion. You can give her soul back, or whatever the fuck, say she was tricked, or corrupted, or whatever. It doesn't work. Sylvanus either burned millions of people alive, or the character we've liked since Warcraft 3 never even really existed. Neither makes for a compelling character, unless they are a villain. For the story to make sense, I think she needs to die, and I think Bane is the one who needs to do it. Bane has been set up, very poorly set up, but still set up to be the heart of the Horde, the good in the Horde. He needs to triumph over the ultimate bad in the Horde. This also works for Tyrande's story going forward. Seeing Bane, who she now sees as at least a fellow worshipper of Elune, fight against someone who massacred her people makes far more sense in quelling her anger than whatever the fuck they did in the real game. Now, you can have Bane attempt to spare Sylvanus' life and do the whole thing where the villain is like, "Oh, please, spare me, I'll be good," and then they try to pull a knife on the good guy so they have to put him down or something, whatever. But I think Sylvanus' story needs to end here. But what was she doing, and why did she do it? Sylvanus is motivated by what I think, at least at some point in WoW's 5 billion different riders, she was going to be motivated by before whatever the fuck they did in BFA. Fear. She is afraid of death, afraid of what lies ahead of her and the Forsaken. The Forsaken are entirely absent from Shadowlands, which blows my fucking mind and shows just how out of touch with Sylvanus' character the writers are. She and the original Forsaken were members of the Scourge. Remember what happens to the souls of people who are members of the Scourge? They go to hell. Sylvanus doesn't want her and her people to go to hell for acts they did not truly commit. That is the future she glimpsed when she attempted to kill herself, and the future her new partner has told her of. So this is why Sylvanas busted into the Shadowlands and why she needed to access the final realm and start draining it of anima. She wants to kill death. She wants to break the cycle. Yeah, it's what she says in the real game, but guess what? It actually kind of makes sense if you actually write a character. Sylvanas in most of WoW has always been Forsaken first. She's not going to undermine her entire character arc and join forces with the guy who literally made the thing that enslaved them in the first place. That would be really stupid. That would be really stupid, huh, guys? But she will make it so that nobody dies anymore. So she and her people don't go to the maw for eternity, enslaved like they were before. She will make everyone Forsaken. So, drain all the anima out of the Shadowlands, break the barrier between life and death, souls never leave their bodies, and everyone's undead. Okay, cool. Obviously, not a good thing, but I think it makes sense for Sylvanas to go down this route. As for why she burned Teldrassil, I don't know, man, that was a real bad idea. But maybe she was hoping it would weaken the Emerald Dream to burn a world tree. Because Sylvanas has known about the Shadowlands for a while, and about the Emerald Dream being immune to the anima drought, because someone told her. After Sylvanas' defeat, we explore. Find where the anima is being taken. It's through a portal, through which we can see a swirling mass of anima surrounding a massive soul. One we may recognize. Something starts to glow on our character's person. We take out the heart of Azeroth. When Sargeras' sword at the end of Legion struck Azeroth, it hit deep. It hit true. Azeroth is dead, and her soul is in the clutches of the true villain of the Shadowlands. The person who's been using this massive world soul to extract anima from the other realms, who told Sylvanas the final steps she needed to take in order to break the cycle of life and death. But Sylvanas' goal wasn't their goal. No, they wanted to keep these souls, to supplant the Shadowlands. Because
sooner or later, everybody serves me.
well, remember when I said that one of the dungeons wasn't going to be there? It was the other side, because the other side is going to be our final zone and final raid in Shadowlands. Bwan Samdi was far and away the highlight of BFA. He was likable, interesting, was already established, and had a great voice act. So of course they brought him back, but not really in the way I think they should have. He's basically comedic relief, which is such a waste of a character that had such sinister undertones previously. No, Bwan Samdi, being the ultimate opportunist, snatched Azeroth's world soul as she bled. He's kept her in his realm, siphoning the power of the Azerite we collected all throughout BFA. This eventually gave him the ability to expand his realm in secret and start harvesting anima from others. His goal is simple: to be the Lord of Death. To not just be a Loa of Death, but the only place souls go. There will be no more system, no more Shadowlands, only Bwan Samdi. He needed help though. The other side was adjacent enough to the other realms that he could slowly drain their anima, but he couldn't touch the life-filled Emerald Dream. Cue the events of BFA, where he allies himself with the new war chief of the Horde, Sylvanas. He tells Sylvanas the meaning of the visions she's seen. Tells her not only will she be consigned to the Maw, but even if she wasn't, her fate wouldn't be her own to choose. That was, after all, the entire reason she formed the Forsaken to begin with. Perhaps burning a world tree would open a hole he could slip through. Sure, there would be many deaths, but we're ending death soon, aren't we? The deal was, Bwan Samdi gets all the anima and souls from the Shadowlands to last him the rest of eternity, and Sylvanas stops the cycle of life and death. Bwan Samdi was the reason Bolvar was incapacitated during their fight, using his increased power to exploit the link between the Helm of Domination and the Shadowlands, and using that link to open the portal. But Bwan Samdi never intended to follow through on ending death. He knew he would have to find someone to take care of Sylvanas eventually. Hell, she'd probably betray him anyway. Maybe an intrepid adventurer who's killed gods and all sorts of things. One that carries a part of the soul he's entrapped and can now track. The reason this is bad for us, living people, beyond being enslaved to Blonde Somdi upon our deaths, is the means he's using. After all, Azeroth isn't the only place souls come from. What's it matter if we lose one little planet? Once he has no more use for Azeroth's soul, he'll take her power fully, entering her into his service, truly killing the planet we live on, sending all those souls right into Blonde Somdi's pocket. Now, you might wonder if Blonde Somdi is the one who told Vol'jin to pick Sylvanas as war chief, and it would really work if I could do that, but the timeline just doesn't add up. Azeroth wasn't dead yet. That was a really shit way to go about getting Sylvanas as war chief, Blizzard, come on. So we could still have the whole Mizala part, still including Blonde Somdi early on in the expansion as like a way to say, hey guys, he's in the expansion, so that the reveal is more surprising. Like I said, the other side would be the final zone and raid location for Shadowlands. We have to free Azeroth from Blonde Somdi's clutches. With the help of the other Eternals, sans Jailer, or maybe with the Jailer, who knows, he's just a dude now. We track him down in his lair and fight through his raid. There'd be a ton of Blonde Somdi voice acting throughout the entire patch. It'd make the expansion. People wouldn't even care it took 8 months for the patch to come out. Anyway, big raid, ending in Blonde Somdi's defeat. We free Azeroth, but did we save her? She is dead. It's only her soul that's been held here. For the first time, we speak to Azeroth, the heart of Azeroth allowing our minds to connect. She must pass on. There is no coming back. She cannot save our world, but what she can do is give us time. Her soul dissipates, the anima and azurite it collected flowing back into the worlds they come from. We don't know how long we have, but when we return to Azeroth, we have to begin plans to find a new home. Because that's what the game needs, to be honest, just a complete reset. They don't care about the lore. Honestly, they don't care so much that it's starting to make me not care. We have spaceships, just let us go to another planet where you can do your own thing, do whatever you want, and just stop fucking up